how has working in a global role changed your perspective compared to regional only responsibilities?
So in a way, it's a very self-satisfying. So the global experience adds a cherry on the top, as I said. Develop your own network is another thing every
Yes.
regulatory affairs professional should do, because you all learn from each other. So there is a manufacturing process of a product. Now, a manufacturing process of a product, if you have to write it down, can go in pages. But not all of that information is actually essential by the regulatory authorities.
Okay.
So someone should know how to translate a 15-page manufacturing process into a 2-page document,
Okay.
which just gives the information which is enough for the regulatory authorities to get an assurance.
Today we have Mr. Abhishek Sinha, Vice President and Global Regulatory Head at Advanz Pharma. A regulatory professional with a global role, manages fillings and strategy across multiple regions, represents the complexities of harmonizing regulatory approaches worldwide. A career built on compliance, adaptability, and leadership in regulatory affairs. So, welcome to Pharma Now, Mr. Abhishek.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Yes, you did your session. How was it?
It was good. It's quite good. I was expecting it to be a bit more interactive. I think the sessions were running late a bit, but it was good. We had a good panel. It was it's Mumbai. I agree with you. People should. This is the first attempt of this conference. I'm sure they will factor this in next time they do. Yeah.
Okay. So, how has working in a global role changed your perspective compared to regional only responsibilities?
So, see, I mean, first of all, the profession which I am in, regulatory affairs, is itself a very self-satisfying profession, because there are very few professions I consider in pharmaceutical space which gives you the, the holistic picture, or which gives you the ability to impact and touch multiple functions at the same time. Yeah. Now that, so for me, being on a global role is a cherry on the top of that. You know what I mean? So because you are able to influence so many products, so many health authorities, you are able to touch lives of so many patients in so many geographies.
Yeah.
It's a very self-satisfying profession, because at the end of the day, it's all about patients, and the whatever we all are doing is just to make sure that the drug reaches a person who needs it, right? So in a way, it's a very self-satisfying. So the global experience adds a cherry on the top, as I said.
Yes, I agree with it. At the end of the day, it's for patients.
Yeah.
So you're satisfied with the role.
Yeah, absolutely.
So managing fillings across multiple geographies sounds very complex, because in different countries, different geographies, the regulatory compliances are very different. So what's the toughest part of aligning global strategies?
So you have to start early. That's very important, and I think the business needs to understand that. When you talk about, there are you will eventually make it to the market, either anyways, right? But the best and the most optimum and efficient way to reach to the market would be when you can start thinking early, when regulatory affairs is included in decision making process early on, when the product development is happening, is very important, because regulatory inputs will help business make strategies which will help them get the product to the market in the best possible timelines, which eventually at the end of the day what business wants to do, right? So that would be very important, getting regulatory involved sometime. And if I 10 years back, if I go back 10 years, regulatory was looked at as a support function, who comes at the end of the food system. But I think the philosophy and the ideology has changed now, and I see more and more organizations do see the benefit of regulatory affairs being involved early on in the decision making process. So I think that is very important, that the early you can get into, the better, the easier is it for regulatory to help the company navigate through the regulatory complexities of different markets. So I'll give an example. You are into peptides. This is all about conferences on peptides. So you're developing a new peptide, and you want to know what kind of clinical study you would like to design, right? Or whether you at all need a clinical study design or not. And you So, and if you want to go to multiple markets, having the regulatory insights of what these regulatory authorities are asking for at this point, it's a moving space as well, right? The regulatory authorities are becoming more and more flexible, some more, some less. So it's important that if regulatory is involved in this decision-making process early on, regulatory can help craft the right clinical strategy for the product. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So so I think the key is getting regulatory involved early in the process.
But do startups know that they can involve regulatory process early? Do they do it, or?
I cannot talk about startups, unfortunately, because I've never experienced a startup myself. But the established organizations do see the value of that, and I'm hoping that even startups will probably see a value in that. And the reason for that assumption is startups by design, startups are small.
Yeah.
They are more flexible. They are more adaptive.
Yes.
They are not. It's not a
They're not rigid.
They're not rigid, and
Yeah.
and that flexibility and adaptability helps them make decision making process much more easier.
Yes.
Right? So I am assuming that that's the case with the startups, but I have not experienced working with a startup company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So, any biggest or recent regulatory surprise you have faced and the lessons you have learned?
In what terms?
Like any surprise, like a compliance surprise you have gotten? And
Yeah, regulatory is always full of surprises.
really?
Yeah, it is because I mean, if you really ask the question generally, you have to be very careful and watch this space very closely and what's changing, right?
Yeah.
So that you don't get a surprise. You need to be ahead of the curve. That's what regulatory affairs are meant for. What is the reason a pharmaceutical company will have a regulatory department? And that's what makes it a bit more strategic. As I was telling you earlier, 10 years back, a lot of companies would think regulatory as a support function.
Yeah.
But if you want to take that strategic responsibility, you have to think differently, right? And that's where it is important that you work and you try to remain ahead of the curve, right? And then you will have less surprises because you are watching the space closely, you are looking at what's changing, and you are trying to adapt to that, and you are trying to help your organization adapt to that.
Yes.
So there will be surprises anyways, right? Because not everything is known. And sometimes the science is changing, technology is changing, the regulatory science is trying to evolve. But with AI, with so much of technology, it is very difficult to catch up. So there are some countries and some regulatory authorities are more efficient in catching up with the technology. Some authorities are not so efficient in catching up. And the countries where the authorities are not so efficient to catch up with, that's where the surprise elements lies, because you don't know how the regulatory authority will react to a situation. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So yes, there are surprises. I don't know whether we want to know about examples of surprises, but does that answer your question?
Yes, but if you have any
examples. Yes, so I mean, loads of examples. You are consider you are developing a new product, and suppose you all of a sudden business decides that they want to extend the product to a new market, which wasn't in the plan earlier, just because business identified there was an opportunity or something happened, right? And that information comes very late in the process. It becomes difficult for regulate. That's a surprise for regulatory affairs, because then you have almost thought of a strategy, and now at the last moment, if you have to really include a new business decision into it, so these can be internal surprises where business has changed their strategy and your regulatory strategy has to adapt to that, right? That's one form of surprise, I will say. There can be external surprises where a regulatory authority just comes back to you and they ask you for something you are not prepared for, right? They do not accept. Sorry if I go technical, but they don't accept, for example, the starting material that you have defined for your drug product, right? Which means a whole load of things you have to start doing again, right? They do not accept the study design that you have proposed for your, say, a bioequivalence study, or they do not accept, or they come for a GMP inspection of your manufacturing site, and they do not accept your manufacturing site's ability to meet that GMP standard. So those kind of surprises will always exist, right?
That's a big
It's
surprise.
never a dull day. It's never a dull day in regulatory affairs. I can tell you this.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big surprise. Like they have to like redo everything all over again.
Sometimes, it's all a risk-based approach. So matured companies with mature regulatory functions will always be doing a risk-based assessment. They will always know what are the risks.
Yeah.
The probability of those risks may be low or high, but they will know what kind of risks may appear. So most of the companies would start planning for those risks as well. So normally it's not a surprise that you are totally unprepared for. Maybe you have thought of a plan already to mitigate that risk, right? So that's what would mostly happen. Once in a while it can be otherwise as well, in which case it will have to see how things are.
How do you balance speed to market with the need for compliance in complex generics and peptides?
Speed to market.
Yeah.
So two things I would say. One is being aware of, I was telling this in my speak today, that early engagement with regulatory authorities is important, very important. And that always helps you avoid surprises, to your earlier point, because you know what they would expect from you. So, and that is also related to your ability to reach the market fastest, right? So early engagement is very important. That is one thing I would say. And the second thing I would say is your quality of submission is also very important, right? So the kind of data shortcuts don't help normally, so maybe you should factor that in when you are looking at a product development timelines and stuff like that. You should always try to factor that in. The third very important point will be look at regulatory pathways that are available. Many regulatory authorities are coming out with newer regulatory pathways, which allows patients to get the products at the earliest. So try to explore those pathways. Talk to the regulators and see if you're eligible for one of those pathways. I can give an example for rare diseases or for therapy areas where there are high unmet need, where you don't have any alternative available. There are authorities which are allowing, FDA allows you an accelerated approval. The European Medicines Agency give you a conditional marketing authorization where you are still generating the data, but you have a product registered which you can start marketing already. So you should be aware of all these regulatory pathways and you should try to attempt those. Don't just do it because you have to do it. Have discussions with a regulatory authority and see if you'll qualify for those pathways or not. And these are also very important because it also feeds into your development strategy. So you should know very early on if you'll qualify for one of those pathways or not. And based upon that, you can also determine what kind of data generation you need to do, which will allow you to do, take those pathways. So that's what I'm saying. Starting early is very important. Getting regulatory early in the process is very important.
Right, from strategizing they can
Absolutely,
involve. Yes.
absolutely.
So with evolving modalities like biologics and cell gene therapies, how must regulatory affair professionals upskill themselves?
Cell and gene therapy is an area which I am not personally very much invested into. But there are lots of regulations, guidance available, which people can read through. Data is very, the best thing of this age is access to data. It's so easy now, So all you need is intention, and time. So if you have the intention and time, you'll find out the information. That's how I'll say, to put it very simply. But a lot of regulatory authorities are now publishing information. For example, in Europe, you get public assessment reports. I'm not sure if you have heard about it or not. So when a drug product or a medicine gets an approval in Europe, the European Regulatory Authority, known as the European Medicines Agency, they publish their assessment report of how they evaluated the drug product, what all aspects they looked at into it, and what they found. So there's a quite a comprehensive summary of information which is published in the public domain. So all you have to do is go and read a few of those to get an idea of how are they looking at those, right? So if I am a novice, which I am right now in gene therapy, and suppose I get a product tomorrow to handle, suppose my company says that we want to invest into gene therapy, what's the best way of learning? I would suggest is start reading. There is a lot of information available out there which will help you. But of course, then there are and the other there are experts available who can help you. Speak with the regulators is another thing I will say. When you are in doubt, approach the regulators. Most of these regulatory authorities are very open as well. They give you advices more often than not.
Yes.
Yeah.
So reading and getting in touch with the regulatory professionals would really help upskilling the new professionals.
Yes, absolutely. And be a network as well, I would suggest. Develop your own network is another thing every regulatory affairs professional should do, because you all learn from each other. Be a part of these kind of conferences helps you. One of the reasons of coming to these conferences should be getting to know people, right?
Correct.
But there are other professional bodies available through which you can also network, across, so there are trade association bodies, there are professional membership bodies available. I will not name them, but there are bodies available through which you can also get to know of people or be in touch with people who are from those fields, who can also help you. So that's also one of the things I would definitely suggest people to think about.
So networking is really important in all fields.
Absolutely.
I don't know about the introverts, then what they would have to do. So are you an extrovert or an introvert?
Oh, depends. Honestly speaking, I will become very philosophical when I answer this question. So it depends upon how you see it, right? I don't see anyone being introvert and extrovert. It's not black and white. That's the way I see it. Someone may be a very introvert, but if you give them a topic which they are passionate about, they will become extroverts, right? So so I am an introvert in that way.
Okay.
But if I talk to people who are like-minded, I become extrovert.
Oh. Wow. So how should companies prepare for post-approval commitment?
Post-approval commitments. So see, again, it goes back to how you design your development, right? You should know what the gaps in your development are, and where you can trade off those gaps with a regulatory authority. Where you think a regulatory authority will be willing to accept those gaps and give you a approval to market your drug. And those will turn into most likely becoming a post-approval commitment. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when, at the end of the day, a drug authority or health authority, what we in our technical jargon we call it is a benefit risk assessment. That's what they do. So they look into all the data that we submit to them, and they do a benefit risk assessment, right? And they will allow you to market a drug when they say that benefit risk assessment is positive. Okay. There may be still gaps which they don't have at that point of time, and sometimes the regulatory authorities are willing to take those risks as well, because there is a need of that drug to be in the market, right? And those gaps will then turn into post-approval commitments, right?
Okay.
So if you know what the gaps of your drug development are, you probably know what your post-approval commitments would look like. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then you can plan accordingly. Yeah.
But do companies are really open about accepting the gaps?
That's where the maturity of a company comes in. At the end of the day, you are making products for your patients, right? It depends upon, I think it goes back to the culture and the value of your organization, I feel.
Very true.
What's the value of your organization? How financially driven you are. Every company is financially driven, but at the end of the day, values matter, right? And I don't want to promote my company, but I feel blessed to work with a company right now who's very financially driven, but we are very value driven as well. Patient centricity is one of our values, and that's important because if you have that in mind, you will never forego something that you probably are aware of. You'll never, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I mean, it's very easy to know what the gaps are. If someone has been in this field or has been working with a particular therapy area, they would normally know what the requirements are and what the gaps are. Now, how financially driven are you to forgo that and take an approach of we will deal with it when it comes, versus versus being proactive and start doing something about it. So I think it goes back to the culture of the organization.
Correct.
Yeah.
Culture matters.
Yeah.
Values matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not just for companies, but for even for the people working in it. If they are aligned with the values of the company, that also matters a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it is a cultures and values are very top driven. You know, so, and it's very, how should I say, it's very infectious. When you see someone following the values, you get inspired, and you, without knowing, you start following them, right? It's very infectious. So I think the leadership team of any organization should be very, very careful of what they do, what they say, and make sure that they're making a conscious attempt to follow and inspire others. They don't have to inspire others, they just have to follow the values themselves. People will just get inspired. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So what is in the top level that eventually comes to the lower level of the organization.
Absolutely.
So the core team should be value driven and aligned with the company.
That's right.
Very true, very true. So any tech and tools you use to reduce regulatory cycles time?
When you say tech and tools, you mean automation? You mean
Automation,
what automations? Yeah. So I mean, it's a time for automation now. So regulatory affairs, you need a lot of tools to work with, but now more and more, there is a lot of emphasis on how much you can deliver, productivity. There is a lot of emphasis on efficiency. You know, just doing it is not good enough now. How well do you do it?
Yes.
You know, is also important, and I think automation can play a big role in there. You know, so there are, it's a growing space. There are very less off-the-shelf tools available. So a lot of companies are investing in their own research to, you know, see what's available and then leverage on them to develop something which suits their needs. So for, you know, we are also doing the same in our organization as well. Yeah. So to answer your questions, there is a lot of opportunity to use automation in day-to-day work. Just not in regulatory, but overall. When think of an example, you know, clinical trials, you generate huge amount of data, you know, and automation can help you generate insights from that data, which can otherwise take months for someone to do.
Correct.
So a lot of clinical research organizations are using automation tools now to generate such data. That's just an example I'm giving you. If I just look at regulatory affairs, you know, for example, automation can help me speed up my approval process. You know, it can help me reduce the, or it can help me increase the productivity of my team. You know, there's a number of submissions a person is doing can be increased if he or she is supported with automation. You know, so those are some of the things we are also exploring. Yes.
So it's like, because as you said, at the end of the day, patient matters. So it's how quickly we regulate everything and
absolutely
put the product in the market, so
absolutely
the people gets it who are in need of it. So it circle back to the
absolutely. So it's all driven from that one thing.
Yes.
You know, so if you really sincerely believe in that thing, everything falls in place. No.
Yes. Yeah. So one dossier mistake you see repeatedly even in big companies, who like any of the mistake which you have been seeing or your team has been seeing repeatedly, that this is happening a lot of times?
I think one common is, I think very few, I mean, I can't generalize this. I've worked with only 3 companies in my life, so I can't really generalize this. But from my experience, a good example would be, what is it that you should give in your dossier and what is it that you should not give in your dossier is one thing which probably I'm not sure everyone really understands. Um, so don't really have to give all the information in your submission. Okay. So let's take an example. Say you're working on I'm going technical now. So there is a manufacturing process of a product. Now, a manufacturing process of a product, if you have to write it down, can go in pages, right? But not all of that information is actually essential by the regulatory authorities.
Okay.
By giving a lot of extra information, you're basically taking an overkill approach and making your post-approval life difficult.
Yes.
Yeah. So knowing what is important for your regulatory submission. So authoring is very important. So someone should know how to translate a 15-page manufacturing process into a 2-page document, which just gives the information which is enough for the regulatory authorities to get an assurance, but not more than that, which will make your life very difficult after you get a regulatory approval, because there are small changes in your manufacturing process, and then you start thinking, oh my God, I have given this information. I now need to go back and inform the regulatory authorities. You're making your life difficult. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that will be one example, I will say.
So this is happening a lot of times, like.
I do think so. I do think so. Yeah.
Okay. So they are only, taking a longer time to get regulatory checks.
Yeah.
Okay. So after this podcast, maybe they'll submit a 2-page thing.
Yeah. I'm not an expert. I can't. Yeah. So, I mean, regulatory. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's not about 1 or 2 pages. It's about what is important, what is relevant, what is not relevant. So, and I think it comes with experience sometimes, Again, it also goes back to the fundamentals of what we are teaching in our universities now.
Yeah.
If you go back to our universities, and how many courses of regulatory affairs do you have right now? Very few. Normally you will have a master's in pharmaceutics or a pharmacology or other branches, but very few universities offer courses on regulatory affairs per se. So people normally who come to regulatory professions are coming and learning while working. You know what I mean? You're not being taught this in your universities. So that's one thing which can change things. If really university starts thinking about regulatory affairs as a profession. There are some who do give post-graduation courses on regulatory affairs, but if you go back and look at their syllabus, that's also very theoretical. They don't really teach the practicals of, for example, the example I just told you, it would be a great topic of discussion for a postgraduate student in university.
Yes.
How to create a manufacturing process. You know what I mean? But I don't think the universities, and that's where I think universities, Pharmacy Council of India, and the industry should come together and start working on how to make the syllabus and the courses more pragmatic and applicable to the real world. So if that is, that's something which is very close to me as well, and maybe after some time, after spending a few more years in the industry, I may like to work in that area, try to see if I can influence that.
Yes, not in the syllabus, but at least we can think of having some workshops.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the postgraduate students.
Absolutely.
The workshops really matter, because in workshops they don't learn practical things. They don't learn only theoretical things.
They also look at the practical things. Absolutely.
Yeah. This is specifically for startups. Like what startups need to understand. Like, should they involve regulatory affair things right from the beginning? What should their day one should look like?
See, I'm assuming, as I've told you earlier, I don't have a startup experience myself, but startup, I'm assuming it's going to be very small, right? Maybe have 1 or 2 products which they are working on or developing. So I assume that they will be outsourcing a lot of their work. They may not have all the capabilities internally, right? So definitely they should have a good regulatory expertise supporting them and helping them.
Right from the beginning.
Right from the beginning, when they're looking at an asset. Even when they are looking at, there can be different kind of startups. So maybe there are startups which are looking for assets as well, right? So I've just formed a new company, and I'm looking for molecules and assets which are under development by the product development companies, and I want to buy the rights of that molecule, and then I want to go ahead and do the rest of it, right?
Yes.
So even when you are looking for such assets, you should have regulatory involved.
Okay.
Because they can help you do diligence of those assets and tell you which one will make through or more likely to make through the regulatory approval process, and which are less likely to make through the regulatory approval process, right? So regulatory should get involved so early.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to next, regulatory work often happens under high pressure and short timelines. So, how do you personally stay calm under fire?
Right. So again, it's a very philosophical question. Sometimes I do, or sometimes I can't, and I'm human at the end of the day. But I try to remain calm because I know people are watching me as well. So one of your responsibilities being a leader is to also make sure that you're not creating something which doesn't help others, right? So you're always conscious of that. What helps me is planning. I do a lot of planning. Sometimes people can think that I overplan. Yeah, and that has affected my personal life as well. Because at the end of the day, I'm one human being. So whatever I'm inculcating affects me personally as well, right? But I do think that you need to plan a lot to avoid. You cannot avoid such circumstances, but to better plan for such circumstances. The more you can plan, the better it is.
Okay.
It helps you remain calm. At least you know something is going to happen. It's not unexpected. You know what I mean? If you have really thought it through, nothing is a surprise because you have thought all the scenarios through.
Yes.
And you have also thought about probably what will you do in those scenarios. To some extent, no? You may have some idea, vague idea.
Yeah.
You may not have done a deep dive of those scenarios, but you may have a vague idea. So when those scenarios happen, you already have a
Picture.
you have got something to start with, right? So that's when you avoid the panic, because you are not in a panic mode because you have thought it through. So that's always a better situation to be in, rather than being in a panic mode where you don't know what to do and then you have to. So I do a lot of planning, and that helps me remain calm in such situations.
So this is another lesson for all of you ki plan, over plan things.
Yeah, everyone will learn their own. I mean, everyone has develops a way and ability to adapt, right? So everyone can be their own teacher. I feel you learn from your own experiences, no? Because if you go back and see how you dealt with in your previous situation, you learn from it. So I think it's very important as person. Forget about regulatory affairs. As a person, you should reflect. You should take time to reflect.
Yes.
It's very important.
So true.
In this busy world, we don't take time to reflect, but that doesn't help. Yeah.
You should take time to reflect.
Yeah, and you learn from that.
This will help in better planning.
Absolutely.
So you plan before submissions, or is it like your days planned? Like you wake? How does your day
No,
looks like?
I don't plan my days. I do the big picture planning. I do a lot. So I would probably know what my priorities are for this month, or for this year, or for next year.
Okay.
Now, do I always stick to my plan? The answer is no. Of course not. Things change all the time, right? But if you are in that mode, you continuously are in that mode of planning and adapting your plans to how things are evolving, right? So you always, right now, I know what my priorities next week would be. I know that in my mind already, right?
Okay.
Or what my priorities for next month will be, or for next year would be. I have an idea.
Fair idea.
I have a fair idea, right? And that helps, because that helps me know when to reflect upon those topics. That helps me know what I need to start now to be able to do it then, right? So otherwise, I don't know. I mean, that's how I live life. Maybe that comes very naturally to me, and so there's nothing I'm preaching to anyone here. But that I don't know how else to do it.
Okay.
I mean, that's the only way I can think you can survive in this mad world where there are so many things happening all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Wonderful. Okay, one last question. What's one misconception people outside pharma have about regulatory affairs? So you must be
They are
having-
post boxes. They are post boxes because all they do is they take information from all other departments put it together and share it with the regulatory authorities. That's what they do. And I think that's a huge misconception. More and more companies don't have that misconception nowadays because they have seen the value add.
Yes.
But there are companies which probably still will have, or there may be segments within the company who may still think or look at regulatory affairs that ways. But I hope that will change with experience and with how they see the benefit of how regulatory can help the organization.
Yes.
But it's also down to people who are in regulatory affairs to think that. So if and again I go back to, this is basic human nature. People will only value you if you value yourself, right? So it's very important for you to value yourself. So if you're in regulatory affairs, it all depends upon what do you think about that, right? Do you feel empowered, and do you feel, no, I can change everything for my company? Or do you feel, what can I do? My role is just to do this.
Yeah.
These are two approaches you can think. In the first, you are empowered, you are influencing, and people will see that, and people will value you for that.
Correct.
In the other scenario, people will just do what I said earlier. People will think you are a postbox, right? So I think it's down to people who are in this profession to also advocate what regulatory affairs can stand for.
True.
So my advice to everyone who is in regulatory affairs is, as I said, it's the most self-satisfying profession you can be in, because you touch so many functions and departments and stakeholders no other functions can touch. So you should feel very proud of that, and you should feel very empowered, and you should really do something about it, and you should use that opportunity to really do what you can do. Use that power. Just having the power doesn't end. Maybe I can end by saying, with great powers comes great responsibilities.
Yes.
Spider-Man said that. Applies a lot to regulatory affairs.
Very true.
So that would be what I would say.
So people who are scared of a regulatory officer, they are scared of, or they are scared of accepting the gaps and everything, I think they should start befriending them, or they should start involving regulatory officers right from the strategy and planning. That is what help you grow and give a better product to the market and to the patients.
That's right.
So one quick we
sure.
can do a rapid fire quickly.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, so one word that best describes you at work.
Rapid fire, you said. Busy.
Busy?
Yeah, at work I'm busy.
People should be busy.
Yeah, I know.
But still you are very you're doing a satisfying job.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happily busy. I'll put it that way.
Happily busy is the word then.
Yeah.
Okay. Coffee or chai during long research hours?
Black coffee.
Black coffee.
Yeah.
If not pharma, which career would you have chosen?
I would have started off my own restaurant.
Wow.
I'm a big foodie, so I love to cook as well. And so, yeah, that's something which was in my to-do list at some point of time. And I don't think I'll do that now.
in your plan, maybe?
Yeah.
Next 5 years.
I don't think so.
Okay. So, I think it's already in the plans which you have already set up for your next 5 years.
No, it's not there now.
You're not there.
No.
So, your favorite food?
I love all kinds of food. My favorite food will be the simplest one. Dal chawal. Yeah, absolutely.
Comfort food.
Comfort food.
Yeah. So, a book or a podcast you'd recommend to young professionals?
There is one which I'm reading now, which is a culture map. The book is honestly speaking, your priorities and your likes and dislikes keeps on changing, and that is something which interests me now, because it does talk about the biases that you have in your mind when you're working with a cross-cultural organization, and that applies just not for cross-cultural organization. It applies in our day-to-day life as well. When you're talking to a person, there is always a different perspective. People do have biases. People judge people very easily, without knowing their upbringing, their value chain, the way you perceive something may be very different from someone else may perceive the same situation. So how you can be more mindful of those when you're communicating with someone is something which I'm currently reading, and it interests me a lot. So I think it's a general thing, it doesn't have to be, anyone would probably...
Empathy.
Yeah, empathy is important, and also try to be open-minded that there are different perspectives to a situation all the time. The way you see things may not be the same way the other person sees things, So we are human beings. We think we communicate very good, but you'll be amazed to, experience this yourselves, that probably we are very poor in communicating. We may have a language, but what you are trying to say in using the language and the words and what the other person is perceiving can be very, very different things, right?
True.
So that's something which I will recommend everyone to read. Yeah.
You don't know what the person is coming from, what is this background.
Yeah, and we don't make an effort to know that as well.
Yeah.
Because of the busy life, you just want, you want quick discussions, you want 5 minutes corridor chat, and you want something to be conveyed to someone. It's not easy that way, so you just have to be mindful of that. That's all. I don't think you can do anything about it, but if you're just mindful of that, that's also very important, because that will change your perspective towards things.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't this conversation is really getting very meaningful.
Yeah.
Okay, regulatory deadlines or R&D experiments, which stress is worse?
Regulatory deadlines. Yeah.
Regulatory deadlines.
Yeah, they are very time bound. You have a date to meet, so it's very time bound. That can be taxing. Yeah.
Your favorite movement in your career so far?
My favorite movement will be moving to Mumbai.
Wow.
I have to confess, I hated Mumbai.
Really?
Before I moved to Mumbai, and I love Mumbai now. So that was one of my best moves, I will say. And of course, working in this company where I am right now, so it changed a lot of my perspective towards everything. Yeah.
But there is other way around also. People love Mumbai and they come over here and they start hating it then.
Okay.
And then they go back to their hometown.
Yeah, no, I'm not in that genre. So I like this place.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Abhishek, this was really nice conversation.
Thank
it was
you so
really
much.
great having you here, and Pharma is really grateful, and the people are very grateful for the insights which you have given them. I think they should start implementing.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.